The World, the big Brad Paisley hit, co-written with these two great writers, Kelly Lovelace and Lee Thomas Miller. Lee, take us back. You remember the origin of this song?
Yeah, I do because I had known Brad in the late '90s before he had his he had his record deal, but I mean, it was early. Nobody knew who he was. He didn't have anything out yet, and first time I ever wrote with him, and that really didn't end up going anywhere. Whereas Kelly had known him really well since school, and Kelly and I had started writing kind of in the late '90s, early 2000s, and we had written the title. We had written the whole thing. To you, maybe just another girl, but to me, you're the world. Some version of it, and I don't know. I don't even remember if we turned it in. Kelly may remember. I just knew that it was something that maybe nobody was excited about. Kelly was writing with Brad, and apparently Brad kind of had the same idea, and
Really?
he says, "How about something like this?" And Kelly, being an upstanding human being, said, "Yeah, we can do it, but we need to let Lee in because we've already written the idea." And I believe Brad even said, "Let me hear how you wrote it." And Kelly played it for him.
He
And
said, is it any good? And I said, and then of course, Lee and I thought it was good. But when somebody asks you that, all of a sudden you get insecure and you say, and you get real small and you say, well, I think so. Yeah, I think it's pretty good. And then we started to play it for him. And he's like, no.
which is how he does. It's not like, man, I think that could have been better. Or you know what if he just goes, no.
Well, how did that get turned around?
And-
Back to a yes.
Well,
It didn't.
Okay.
It didn't like right at first, but it ended up like, and again, as writers, sometimes we think we're brilliant when we come up with ideas, but we all kind of think of the same things. It's just kind of who thinks of it first and who puts it out first, because ideas are just out there and you just grab it. But so when he pitched that, it's the exact same chorus, it's pretty much almost word for word, and then that song took Lee. I mean, we wrote that in how many states? I mean, we wrote it here, we wrote it in California, at several different places in California, and back here again, and we worked on that relentlessly.
Well, I sometimes say that there's I don't know how many words there are in the English language, but Brad's very patient, and he likes to try all of them in a song before he figures out exactly which ones work. And we wrote it and rewrote it and rewrote it and rewrote. Yeah, this 6 months or something. I mean,
It was a long time, and it just, well, and like Lee said, I mean, sometimes it's hard to be simple and straightforward because you're trying to do too much sometimes. And finally, once we got on those verses, which they had a little bit of a smile to them, then it got to be a lot more fun and a lot easier. And of course, Brad had that great, that melody and that thing that he does, and then we were, and I'll let Lee tell this part just because he tells it funnier. But you remember the story about the bridge of the song, Lee?
Well, yeah, we had written again, several versions of it, and he kept thinking that he was going to cut it, and then he would record it, and he didn't cut it, but he liked it, and we felt like it was going to get cut, but something was not right, and it gets down to the night before, maybe the last. I felt like it was towards the end of the record, but I mean, it was.
Yeah.
He's cutting tomorrow, and he calls us, and we go over, and this was, I feel like, before. Yeah, this was before he had kids. So back then, he'd want to start work at 10 o'clock at night, and we'd just go all night. And it's funny, he has this amazing superhero ability to never get tired and never get hungry.
That's right.
So me and Kelly are hallucinating. And again, we were working on the bridge, which was 2 lines, and I remember he said, "Here's the deal." He said, "I hate the bridge; it's terrible. Come over tonight, and if we can get something better, I'll cut it tomorrow. And if we don't, then I won't." So here we are, and it's late, and it's late, and it's late, and it's late, and it keeps getting later, and we're sitting in his kitchen in his farmhouse, which is kind of this studio house that he has, and it's 2 or 3 in the morning, and we've tried every combination of words for this bridge, and Kelly and I, had kids. We'd been up since 5 a.m. or something, and we look over, and I just remember Kelly going, "Is he asleep?" And he was like sitting in this window seat, and he dozed off.
Yeah.
And we're like, what do we do? And so we just kind of kept trying. And I remember Kelly sang something, and Brad goes, "That's it. We're done."
The genius of Brad Paisley.
But
That's it. We're done. And the next day, they cut, even to this day, one of my absolute favorite records I've ever had recorded. I mean, they took the song and made an absolute masterpiece out of the record.
yeah, he has like 32 tracks of guitar on it.
Yeah.
It's
32 tracks of guitar.
Wow. Well, y'all have both known me long enough to hear me say the hardest song, and I'm not a songwriter, but if I were, the hardest to write would be a love song that I care about that hadn't been done. And I remember when I first heard that, I'm like, you're the world to me, honey. My family's the world. It's a take on that. I had never heard that such what should have been an obvious idea written, and y'all nailed it. I'm glad to hear that you worked on it, because here's all I know. The finished product, and I don't use this much, is a perfect song. And Paisley nailed it too.
I'll tell you one quick side note. Like I said, they didn't have kids, and it goes #1. We're at the #1 party, and at this point, I'd known Brad a while, you know, and we had 4 kids already by then. They were little, and we get to the #1 party, which is the world, right? So Brad had it at the planetarium over at the Science Museum, in the big planetarium part, which was cool. You got the stars and everything above us, you know, because Brad never stops thinking. And my wife had these shirts made. On the front of it, I forget what it said on the front, but on the back of the kids' shirts, well, there's a line in the song that says, "To the kid at the ice cream shop, you're just another dip."
Yeah.
And so my children's T-shirts, on the back of the shirt, it said dip #1, dip #2, dip #3, dip #4, right? Which she surprised me with. She shows up, and it was great, right? And Brad laughed and laughed, and he made this big deal about the shirts, and he was just stunned at the shirts. He loved it so much. And as we were leaving, Jana said, "Hey, Kim's pregnant." And I said, "Why would you say that?" And she said, "I don't know that he really knew you had kids. And he made a huge deal about the shirts because he's thinking about kids. I guarantee you, they just found out they're pregnant." And I'm like, well, that's a stretch. And it might have been 2 or 3 weeks. And he finally said, "Kim's pregnant." And I'm like, holy crap. Wow. How did she see that coming?
Jana Propstein.
Well, I want to end with this. Kelly, earlier on, Lee said when we started this that you played it for Brad. Brad didn't love it. You're a man of integrity, and I just want to say how much I appreciate, and a lesson for all other writers. It would have been easy for you to jump in, but you credited Lee, and through the rest of that chain, it's the kind of guy you are, Kelly, and we all love you for that. You're a good man. And I want to acknowledge Paisley. You know, for the past 20 years or so, he's sort of been the unappointed ambassador of our industry. And he's conducted himself with such integrity that could we have had a better one? Through the award show hosting, I mean, he's sort of the new Roy Acuff. When people think about country music as a spokesman, they think of Brad, and I don't think we could have a better one. And I'm happy for all this, and for you guys too. Anything I didn't ask, Kelly.
He's who you think he is as a person.
Right.
Like, he really is solid. You know, it's funny. There's a lot of thoughts about what goes on out on the road and backstage and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know. I mean, with maybe some of the younger artists, there is a lot of shenanigans that goes on. But, you know, we'll travel with Brad a lot, spend a lot of time with Brad doing, you know, the rock star thing with planes and trains and automobiles and stuff, you know. And it's so funny. My wife has always been like, you know, she's not a jealous person, but she knows, you know, there's a lot of stuff goes on, except with him. You know, because she's always said, she says, "No, y'all aren't going to get in trouble with him." She said, "Brad Paisley is the No Girls Allowed Club from the Little Rascals."
Oh, yeah.
But in integrity with you and him, Kelly, I give it. I say it for you. You're too humble to admit it, but that you would echo what Lee just said.
Oh, absolutely, man. He just has great character. He has no bad habits. You know, he's just a good, solid family man. I know, right?
He's annoying. He is annoying.
He's the guy that makes us all look terrible. He makes us look bad, you know. And but anyway, going back to that integrity too thing, like you're mentioning with when Brad pitched that idea, the reason you do that without even thinking about it, like it's not even a question. It wouldn't be a question for Lee either. If he and I had been on a song and roles were reversed, Lee would say, "Okay, but I can't," because even though it was Brad's idea, pitching it to me or pitching it to Lee, we would lose our minds if another co-writer, and especially as close a friend and lifelong friendship as Lee and I have, you just wouldn't be able to live with yourself if I thought that Lee thought that I took something or did something, and just so neither one of us would do that.
This is a lesson for young and up and coming songwriters. It is a great song and a great story behind a great song of the world. Brad Paisley, co-writers Kelly Lovelace and Lee Miller for the Tennessean and Tennessean.com.